CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Karen Greer. Here's a look at what's coming up on today's show. Child actor Cameron Boyce died last month after he suffered a seizure. You know, seizures can be sudden and uncontrolled. Would you know what to do or what to look for if your child has one? And we're talking anxiety. It's more common than you think, and kids today have a lot more to deal with than we did back in the day. You know, we have great advice on how we can help your child and how you can help. But first, we're sitting here with a fabulous, well-known educator and co-founder of the prestigious, world-renowned Ron Clark Academy. Kim Bearden joining us today. We're so excited to have you, Kim.
Thank you for having me on.
She's got some great advice and tips for how you can help your child overcome obstacles this school year, and there are so many more of them than when we were growing up, including social media, learning disabilities, teacher conflict. So much going on. You said one of the big ones, though, is definitely social media.
Oh my goodness, it is, right? And I know all of us who are adults, we've probably had that conversation where we said, I'm so glad all this wasn't around when I was a child to have to deal with, right?
Oh.
So I think that the big key, I think, for parents is just to be aware and to constantly research all the different things that are out there. As soon as you think you understand, oh, I know about this app, there's another one that has popped up.
Yeah.
And there are even apps that are designed to hide other apps on your students' phones. There's one that it's like calculator with a percentage mark, and it actually hides kids' videos and content on their phones. So you may be a diligent parent who says, I need to check your phone every once in a while, but may not understand that there's even layers of protection that those students or the children can have to hide things that they're doing. And I think it's important for parents to understand that good kids do this.
Yes. And I was going to say that. Parents think they don't have to check their children's phones.
Right. And it's important to understand, you know, all of us as children, we kind of push the boundaries sometimes. All of us will have to admit to we've lied to our parents before.
Never, Kim.
I was a great kid. I had phenomenal parents, but I told some lies.
You're
and
right.
so it doesn't mean you have a bad child, but also don't be fooled because you have a good child, a child who's making good grades, who's responsible, doing all the things that he or she should, that child isn't necessarily participating in some behaviors that could be dangerous. And I've had parents many times, great parents with great kids, but that child will all of a sudden, you know, be caught on an app or something like that. And the parent's like, oh, my child doesn't have social media, but then they find out they do. Or, oh, I checked my child's Instagram page, but there's a whole thing called Finstas. The Finsta is the fake Instagram page, or as they call it, fake, but what that is, that's the one that they share all their stuff with their friends. So the kids are smart enough that a lot of them have their professional Instagram page.
Right.
But then they also have the one where it's showing them maybe engaging in some behaviors that they don't want their parents to see. So this isn't all to terrify parents, but it is a different world, and we have to keep ourselves abreast of it. And as parents, we have to do our due diligence by constantly researching and you know, just even Googling, you know, apps that are out there and apps to watch for and that kind of thing. Because as soon as you think you've mastered one, all of us have heard of Snapchat, but maybe you haven't heard of TikTok, and you need to know what TikTok is and all of those other things like that. That's really important.
And teacher conflict. Let's talk about that. How tough is that for these kids today?
Well, I think that one of the best gifts a parent can do is to teach children themselves how to communicate with their teachers, how to advocate for themselves. And so, for example, if a child comes home and they're upset about a grade or something like that, you know, I think in this society today, the first instinct is that parent to fire off an email at that teacher. And the parent wasn't there in the classroom when the assignment was given. The parent wasn't there to hear the explanation of it. The parent didn't, you know, go through the rubric as the teacher probably did. And so the best way for that child to seek understanding about that grade and to improve is to be able to go to that teacher. Now, if it's a kindergarten or first grader, of course, I'm talking, you know, as children, they'll mature through late elementary school, into middle school, and certainly into high school. And so the first thing I would recommend that parents do is say, you know, have you asked your teacher if you could sit down for a moment and just have them go through the grade with you? Ask them if they can explain to you why you did it in a respectful way, you know, not in an argumentative way, but can you help me understand how I can improve? You know, that kind of language is really helpful for parents to instill in their children. And it's the best way for that child to actually become an advocate for themselves.
How do you keep kids interested and excited about learning and going to school?
Well, you know, our school is actually designed to try to promote that. The Ron Clark Academy is actually, not only are we a middle school for students in 4th through 8th grade, but we're an educator training facility. So every year we invite educators from around the globe to actually come to our school, sit in our classrooms, watch us teach, and take our methods and ideas back. And so this past year we had about 16,000 educators. Over 60,000 have been here to our school to learn our methods and techniques. But we do use lots of movement, lots of energy, lots of music, all kinds of things. But we're very academically challenging. Our students excel at very high levels. But the idea is that no child learns in one way. And so when you're addressing the content standards that are to be taught, as many multiple ways that you can to help your child learn. And at the home environment, that's important too. So, a lot of parents will sit down at that table at night and it's World War III with the homework, right? And so, and then there's tears and there's fighting and there's frustration and, it's what is going on. And so all kids need structure, but you also have to listen to your child. Your child might be a child that you have to set that timer for 15 minutes. I want you to work for 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, you can go outside, shoot some baskets or run around the house or do some jumping jacks or whatever you need to do. Listen to a song, then you're going to come back for another 15 minutes.
I love that.
You got to think about ways that your child isn't just sitting there for 3 hours at that table. And you got to kind of pay attention to that too. If your kid is up there in the bed for 3 hours and they say, I've been studying for 3 hours, it could be likely that 2 hours of that child's been maybe texting with friends, and there's nothing wrong with that, but chatting in chat rooms, talking to their friends about the homework instead of maybe doing the homework.
Yeah.
And then the last thing about that is sometimes a change of scenery. If you and your child every day are sitting there, I had a parent, really wise parent, she said, I figured out that we just stop on the way home and we go to our library and we sit down and we have a little room there, we have the big cozy couches, and we do it there, and it's just that change of scenery so we're not bringing that back into the house. Or parents say sometimes we'll just go sit in at the bookstore, in the coffee shop, that kind of thing, and that's kind of a bonding time.
Kim, great points, great ideas. We're going to come back, talk to Kim a little bit later on in the show. Thank you so much for that. And we are going to talk about motivating the kids some more and getting them ready to go. Coming up next, kids today are more predisposed to anxiety, and many times as parents, we're well-meaning and just don't know how to help them out. When we come back, we're going to talk to an expert who has some advice on how you can help your very anxious child. We'll be right back.